Manchester United did not lose this match in the second half. They lost it in the patterns they have been rehearsing for months, without consequence. Aston Villa did not win by being better. They won by refusing to let United play the game they have been allowed to play everywhere else. This was not about individual brilliance. This was not about missed chances or defensive errors in isolation. This was about a tactical habit finally meeting a team willing to punish it without hesitation. Manchester United have been playing a version of football that relies on opponents behaving predictably. Aston Villa simply refused to cooperate. And in that refusal, they exposed something uncomfortable. United's structure does not adapt when opponents take away the space they expect to find. The tactical habit in question is not new. It has been visible across multiple matches, across different competitions, against various styles of opposition. Manchester United build possession with the assumption that they will eventually find space between the opposition's midfield and defensive lines. Their attacking movements are designed to exploit that zone. Their tempo is calibrated for it. Their patience is built around the belief that the gap will appear if they probe long enough. But Aston Villa compressed that zone completely. They did not defend deep and invite pressure. They did not press high and leave space in behind. They occupied the exact vertical corridor that United's attacking patterns depend on, and they refused to vacate it. What made this punishment effective was not just the tactical discipline. It was the speed at which Villa transitioned once they regained possession. United's midfield structure, when possession is lost, assumes there will be time to recover shape. That assumption has been valid in most matches because most opponents take longer to reorganize after winning the ball. Villa did not give them that time. They moved forward immediately, not recklessly, but with clear intent to attack the spaces United's shape creates when they are still mentally committed to offense. This is not a counterattacking strategy in the traditional sense. It is exploitation of the seconds between United losing the ball and United recognizing they need to defend. The consequence of this approach became visible in United's body language. Players began checking their positioning more frequently. Passes that should have been automatic became hesitant. The rhythm of their build-up play, usually smooth even when ineffective, started to fracture. This is what happens when a team realizes their foundational pattern is not working but does not have a secondary plan rehearsed to the same level of fluency. United have drilled one way of progressing the ball. When that method is neutralized, they do not shift to an alternative system. They attempt the same patterns with more urgency, which only makes the problem worse. Aston Villa's defensive organization was not complicated. They did not employ exotic tactical innovations. They simply identified where United preferred to play and chose not to allow them to play there. The simplicity of this approach is what makes it so damning. It suggests that United's tactical habits are predictable enough that a well-prepared opponent can remove them entirely without requiring exceptional individual performances. Villa did not need their defenders to win every duel. They did not need their midfielders to dominate possession. They needed discipline in maintaining their vertical compactness, and they needed courage to attack the transitional moments when United's structure was most vulnerable. The uncomfortable truth is that this tactical vulnerability has existed for some time. Other opponents have simply chosen not to exploit it with the same ruthlessness. Some teams have defended deeper, giving United the space they prefer, accepting the risk of sustained pressure. Other teams have pressed higher, leaving gaps that United could attack directly. Villa chose a middle path that removed United's preferred patterns while creating opportunities through transition. The fact that this approach worked so effectively raises a question. How many other teams have identified this weakness but lack the tactical discipline to execute the solution? Manchester United's possession statistics in this match will likely appear respectable. Their pass completion numbers will not reveal catastrophic failure, but those numbers obscure the reality. Possession without penetration is not control. It is repetition without consequence. United circulated the ball extensively in zones where Aston Villa were comfortable defending. They did not create sustained pressure in dangerous areas because the zones they needed to access were never available. This is the illusion their statistics create, the appearance of dominance in a match where they were tactically neutralized. The response from United's coaching staff will be scrutinized. Tactical adjustments during the match appeared minimal. There was no visible shift in structure to address Villa's compactness. There was no change in tempo to disrupt Villa's defensive rhythm. There were personnel changes, but those changes did not alter the fundamental approach. This suggests either a belief that the existing patterns would eventually break through or an absence of practiced alternatives. Neither explanation is encouraging. Successful teams adapt within matches when their primary approach is failing. United continued to execute the same patterns with diminishing effectiveness. Aston Villa's performance deserves recognition not for spectacular moments, but for tactical maturity. They identified a specific weakness in their opponent's approach and built their entire match plan around exploiting it. They did not deviate from that plan when United had extended periods of possession. They did not panic when United created isolated chances. They maintained their structural discipline and waited for the transitional moments they had prepared for. This is intelligent football executed with discipline. It is not the type of performance that generates headlines about individual brilliance, but it is the type of performance that wins matches against supposedly superior opponents. The broader implication extends beyond this single result. If Aston Villa can neutralize Manchester United's tactical patterns through disciplined compactness and quick transitions, other teams will recognize the blueprint exists. United's approach is now documented as vulnerable to a specific type of opposition strategy. Coaches across the league will have studied this match not for the goals scored, but for the method used to control United's attacking threat. The tactical habit that was punished today will be targeted again unless it is fundamentally altered. Manchester United's issue is not about individual quality. The players available possess technical ability and athleticism. The problem is systematic. They have been drilled in patterns that assume certain conditions will exist. When those conditions are removed by intelligent opposition, they do not have sufficient tactical flexibility to adjust. This is a coaching issue. This is a preparation issue. This is a structural issue that cannot be solved by individual brilliance or motivational speeches. The psychological impact of this defeat extends beyond the immediate result. Manchester United entered this match expecting to control proceedings. They expected Aston Villa to behave in ways that would allow them to execute their practiced patterns. When Villa refused to cooperate, United's confidence visibly eroded. Players who normally receive the ball in dangerous positions found themselves receiving it in sterile areas. Runs that normally create space found defenders already occupying that space. The cumulative effect of these small frustrations manifested in rushed decisions and frustrated body language. Aston Villa, conversely, grew in belief as the match progressed. They recognized their tactical plan was working. They saw United's frustration increasing. This created a psychological dynamic where Villa became more confident in their approach, while United became less certain of theirs. In these situations, the team with clear tactical identity usually prevails. Villa knew exactly what they were trying to do. United appeared increasingly uncertain about how to break down an opponent who refused to defend in the way they expected. The final scoreline will be recorded as a narrow victory. The statistical record will show a relatively close match, but the underlying tactical reality was more definitive. Aston Villa controlled this match not through possession or territorial dominance, but through systematic removal of Manchester United's attacking threat. They made United look ordinary not by being extraordinary themselves, but by refusing to allow United to play the football they have been practicing for months without meaningful resistance. This match exposed a fundamental truth about tactical habits in modern football. Teams that rely on opponents behaving predictably are vulnerable to opponents who refuse to behave predictably. Manchester United have built their attacking approach on assumptions about how opponents will defend. Those assumptions have been valid often enough to create the illusion of a sustainable system. But when those assumptions are challenged by tactically disciplined opposition, the system fails. And when the system fails, there is no obvious alternative. The consequence for Manchester United is not just 3 points lost. It is the exposure of a tactical vulnerability that cannot be hidden. Other coaches have seen what Aston Villa did. They have seen that it worked. They have seen that United had no effective response. The tactical habit that was punished today will be targeted repeatedly until it is fundamentally changed. This requires more than minor adjustments. This requires rethinking the foundational principles of how United build possession and progress the ball. Aston Villa's victory should be understood as tactical intelligence executed with discipline. They did not win by being more talented. They won by being more prepared. They identified a weakness, designed a plan to exploit it, and executed that plan without deviation. This is the type of victory that builds genuine confidence because it is based on systematic excellence rather than individual moments. Villa proved they can compete with supposedly superior opponents not by matching their quality, but by exposing their tactical limitations. The question for Manchester United is whether this defeat will prompt genuine tactical evolution or merely surface level adjustments. Changing personnel does not solve systematic problems. Increasing intensity does not address tactical predictability. What is required is a fundamental reassessment of the patterns being rehearsed in training and the assumptions those patterns are built upon. Until that reassessment occurs, United will remain vulnerable to any opponent willing to study their habits and prepared to punish them. This match was not decided by individual errors or momentary lapses in concentration. It was decided by systematic tactical superiority. Aston Villa had a clearer plan. They executed it with greater discipline. They adapted less because they needed to adapt less. Their approach was designed to neutralize United's strengths, and it achieved that objective comprehensively. Manchester United's tactical habits, rehearsed without sufficient challenge, finally met an opponent willing to expose them completely. The tactical lesson is clear. Patterns without adaptability are vulnerabilities waiting to be exploited. Manchester United must evolve beyond the habits they have relied upon, or they will continue to lose matches to opponents who simply refuse to cooperate with their tactical assumptions.